Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials. There's an age-old saying that information or knowledge is power, and that's never been more true than it is today. Normally, when somebody gets a tricky question, they're not quite sure of the answer, we just dive onto the laptop or the smartphone, pop onto Google, type in the question, and as if by magic, out pops the answer. Internet's a fantastic thing. Don't need to tell me that. I use it doing videos like this for you. So I'm aware that there's a vast range of knowledge, skills, expertise out there available at your fingertips. You just type it in and up it pops. That's all brought to us by the power of the internet. But what happens if the internet goes down? Where do we get the answers to our questions then? Let's find out. We don't actually have to imagine what it would be like for the internet to go down, because it does, and probably more frequently than you might imagine. And regularly we'll get chaos, breaking news that the internet somewhere on the planet has gone down, and it's caused a nightmare for people.
Now to breaking news, some of the world's biggest websites experiencing outages today. CNBC senior markets correspondent Dom Chu joins us now. Dom, what can you tell us?
All right, so Aaron, it's affecting big company websites ranging from Delta Airlines, British Airways to companies like UPS and Costco. Many banking and trading websites like Fidelity and Charles Schwab also affected by this widespread internet outage. Now, that's maybe the reason why you're experiencing long wait times, also load times for all those websites, or the inability in some cases to even get through to them outright. Now, reports are that one of the companies that really helps provide a large part of the content delivery infrastructure for the overall internet, in this case the company Akamai Technologies, had a service disruption, but they just issued a statement in the last 15-20 minutes or so saying that they've implemented a fix for this and that things appear to be getting back to normal. They continue to monitor things as well. Still though, Aaron, that internet outage causing a lot of headaches for folks out there in just the last couple of hours.
Regular viewers to the channel might remember that last weekend I put out a video about the chickens being in lockdown. And I was really pleased to see people starting to put their comments in the comments section. Those comments don't just help myself, they help everybody else that views the video and scrolls down through the comments. And there were people on there putting up comments about what they're doing in their prepping journey. And one in particular caught my eye. It was a comment from a channel subscriber called Randomness Personified. Try saying that 3 times. And he was talking in general about things he's doing to get prepared, and one particular thing caught my eye. He was talking about a tablet that he uses, and he started to talk about things that he might use it for in a grid down or SHTF scenario. And that reminded me of a video that I put out probably a couple of years ago now about information and where would you get your information in a grid down major crisis? How would you answer the questions that regularly crop up? How would you remind yourself of how to fix that item that was broken or how to cook that meal? So I thought I would share with you today the ways that I would get information if the grid went down, and particularly if the internet went down. I don't claim to have the largest library in the world, but I do have a lot of books actually. This is a random selection on one of the bookcases. I've also got some bigger books stored away in the garage, and eventually as I develop the garage and get bookshelves erected in there and maybe a little YouTube video studio in there, I'll probably be able to share a few of those with you as well. But for now I thought I'd run through some of the ones that are probably more important and that are still fairly easy to get hold of. And everybody really who is even a start out prepper should have at least a few of these in their own library. one of the more essential things that you really do want to get knowledge on, and even if you can't retain that knowledge, I mean, nobody can remember everything, something that you should have very quick reference to is first aid. I've got a variety of different books on the subject of first aid. Some of them are manual type books that are put out by people like the Red Cross or St John's Ambulance that give you in-depth and step-by-step, almost an idiot's guide to what to do for a variety of different emergencies. And I've also got some smaller quick reference type books that I actually keep inside the first aid boxes that I've got either here in the home or down at the cabin. And bearing in mind we're talking about a something hit the fan scenario, one thing that might not be available, and I would say pretty much definitely won't be available come a complete SHTF or breakdown, is medication. So I also have a few books on the subject of natural remedies, things that back in the days gone by before we had the big pharmaceutical companies, people used to make their own remedies for common ailments and even antiseptic type creams. So I have a couple of books on how to make natural remedies as an alternative to off-the-shelf medication. So very, very highly recommend. Every house should have some kind of first aid book so that you know what to do in case of emergency. In recent videos I emphasised the importance of food and the fact that the global food supply chain is going down the toilet. So the availability of food in the supermarkets is potentially going to be in doubt over the coming months and who knows, even years. So with that in mind, any way that you can find food by hunting, trapping, foraging would be really important and very, very useful. So I've got a selection of different books here, just picked them out at random really. There's a little bushcraft guide there to trapping, hunting, gathering food in the wild, and also quite usefully how to cook it once you've got it. Over the last year I've mentioned in videos about the great number of mushrooms that are on the field, so I did get this more specialist book that gives you a complete A to Z of all of the different types of mushrooms, and more importantly being able to identify which ones are edible and which ones might not be edible. So again, very, very useful. And then I've got a couple of these little, one of them's a pocket size guide, this one's a little bit bigger. Just identification for different plants that are available out in the wild that you can actually eat. And again, just being careful to make sure that the ones that you do find are actually edible. So some really nice illustrations in here to help you identify. There's one of my favourites, look, elderberry. We've done a video, several in fact, on elderberries. So yeah, again, very, very useful. Finding free food essentially out in the wild, whether that's plants or animals. I emphasise a lot in almost all of my videos, really, the benefits of being able to produce your own food. So whether that's growing food or whether that's rearing small animals as a source of meat or egg or milk supply. When the supermarket shelves are unbare, yes, it's great to rely on your long-term food stores, but eventually, if it's a long-term grid down or SHTF scenario, the last thing you want to be doing is running out of your stores of food. So you do really need long-term a way of replacing those items that you're taking off the shelf. And the easiest way to do that is to grow your own food or to rear your own animals. So I've got a variety of different books about how to grow fruits, vegetables. Some of them are more condensed and focused on allotment gardening, so your traditional raised beds and perhaps polytunnel for growing your essentials. a quite comprehensive book of how to not just grow various types of fruits and vegetables, but also what to do with them, how to actually cook them. Again, really nice illustrations in this book, and as you can see, it's a fairly thick, fairly thick book. But it covers everything. Some of it's more mainstream fruits and veggies, and other things like borage, which I have grown actually down on the land. So it's not just mainstay, and it also talks about things like medicinal use for various herbs and plants. So again, really, really useful. Almost limitless supply of some pretty obscure things as well as your mainstreams. So again, very, very useful. You'll have seen on the land I'm trying desperately to grow a variety of different fruits, and having limited success in terms of damage to the trees by pests. And you'll also know I keep chickens, so I've got books dedicated to chickens because that's my, at the moment, preferred livestock. Very, very useful resource, both in terms of eggs and eventually meat. And then delving deeper, and potentially something for the future, other animals that I might want to keep, you know, ducks, geese, goats, or bees, as I am doing now. So again, very, very nice little book covering a variety of different topics, from, just opened it at the right page there, bees, goats, other kinds of wildfowl, so ducks and geese. So some reference material there to help you to grow your own food, whether it be fruit, vegetables, or raising livestock. So once we've grown our food, we want to hang on to it as long as we can when it comes out of the ground or off the tree in the bush. So I've got a variety of different books on how to store the various produce that you'll grow from your home garden, including ways of preserving some of those fruits, because fruits are the ones that tend to go off the quickest. So I've got a little book there about making jams, jellies, so on and so forth, with some cooking tips as well. Also tells you how to preserve meat, whether that's by smoking, salting, and of course the objective of having all of this produce that you're either growing, harvesting, foraging, whatever, you want to eat it. Not everybody is the greatest cook in the world, so it's very useful to have a few different books on how to actually cook whatever it is, produce wise, that you've got, and including thinking about energy and the potential lack or limited availability. Wherever you can get away with it, one pot cooking. I've done an awful lot of one pot cooking in the past, particularly when I've been overseas. It's quite amazing what you can actually do in one pot. It just doesn't have to be just your basic boring soups or stews. You can do an awful lot with a crock pot. So yeah, preserving the food that you have, getting the longest shelf life as possible out of it, and then of course the nice bit, the actual cooking and eating of it. One thing that you have to remember when it comes to going through sort of grid down, something hit the fan calamities, people have been through this before. Lots of different countries around the world kind of live through something hit the fan or grid down every day as a part of normal everyday life. And they have a whole wealth of knowledge of how to get by with little, how to make, do and mend, repair things instead of replacing them, so on and so forth, or finding alternative means to producing particularly energy. So I've got a variety of different books here. There's a survival manual there. That's somebody who lived through the economic collapse in Argentina quite a few years ago now, but he talks in great detail about how the crisis evolved and how the normal way of life kind of descended quickly into chaos. So lots of first-hand information in there from people who have been through a real crisis. A variety of other books. This one is it's called Just in Case, How to Be Self-Sufficient. And this covers everything to do with grid down and giving you tips and tricks about pretty much every aspect of life, whether that's first aid and medication, whether that's alternative energy, trying to stretch out your food supplies. So loads of good information in there. This is probably one of the more famous prepping books, actually. It's called Back to Basics, and it's focus on traditional skills. I touched on this a little bit earlier, and it covers all aspects, whether that's living off the land, growing your own vegetables and fruits, raising livestock or other kinds of animals for food, milk, eggs, alternative energy, sort of homesteader crafts and skills such as making clothes, repairing equipment and machinery, a whole wealth of knowledge in that book. If you got nothing else but that one book, you'd be doing quite well. Again, a little book here called Low Cost Living, Live Better, Spend Less. Again, this is first-hand knowledge from people who've gone back to the old ways of make, do and mend, or cooking on the cheap. So again, lots of tips about recycling, repairing, replacing clothing, equipment, budget cooking, loads of good stuff in that book. And then a bit more technical aspect, something that I've done quite a lot down on the field, and I am doing now here, alternative energy, trying to get away from main grid gas and electric. This one's particularly about solar, but you do get these books in a whole range of different things. So if you're not a mechanic, there'll be Mechanics for Dummies books out there. So that's just a bit of a selection of different themes or topics that I've got books on. If the grid does go down and you don't have the internet, that's what we're all going to fall back to, good old-fashioned print media rather than electronic media. So, YouTube, the internet in general, fantastic tool for information, knowledge and skill gathering. Really, really useful. And whilst it's up and running, the internet is live, you can just randomly go in and any time of the day or night and find where it is you're looking for. But when that goes down, you've got a bit of a problem. So what I tend to do is, if I find something that's really useful, things that I want to remember later, then I can either download things in video format, or, as you'll find throughout the prepping community on the internet, lots of people have put up their useful kind of idiot guides in the form of downloadable ebooks or PDF files. So as you're scrolling around and you come across something useful, don't just look at it and think, that's good, I'll come back to that if I need it. Take the opportunity. Get yourself a little portable hard drive. Get yourself, and I've got millions and millions of these, get yourself a variety of USB memory sticks. You can get these in all kinds of sizes. I mean, that one there is a gigabyte on that tiny little device. Think of how many ebooks, video clips you could store. Yes, you can store them on your laptop, but you might want to use them on different devices. This laptop might, God forbid, break. So you'd be kind of buggered then if it's stored on your local hard drive. So make use of the technology that we've got. These things are quite cheap, these little USB sticks. So get yourself some sticks or some portable hard drives and start gathering a library of information that will be really useful to you in a crisis SHTF situation. And more importantly, if the internet was to go down and you don't have the ability to just type into Google anymore. So, have you thought about what you would do if the internet went down and you couldn't just type in your Google questions anymore? Information, knowledge really is desperately important to anybody who's going to try and survive in a grid down scenario or SHTF situation. So make sure that you're not short of that knowledge, skills or abilities that you would need to get you and your family through whatever crisis it might be. If you haven't already done it, get yourself some books. Start building your library. Nothing more valuable than to be able to pick up a book and find the answer to the question that you're looking for. Or alternatively, take advantage of the high tech that we've got available to us now. Get yourself a library built up in digital format on USB sticks or hard drives, whatever. Don't rely on the hard drive on your laptop or your tablet because you never know when that might stop working. Far better to have them stored on a small little device such as this that you can pop into a plastic bag, potentially one of those anti-static Faraday cage type bags, and it's there ready and waiting for whenever that crisis strikes and whenever you need access to that library of knowledge and information. Well, that's it for this video. I hope there was something in there that was of interest to you. If you did like the video, please do click on the like button. Also feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, I welcome any comments, questions or suggestions you might have. Just feel free to leave them in the comments section below. But for now, thanks for watching and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.